Hello, welcome back to Blender Sushi Live Coding. In this episode, we're gonna revisit the procedural pen weighting. I think I did this in the past using Sverchok as well, but I kind of wanna revisit it because I want to soon do the reaction diffusion stuff, and I think this is a good something that's good to try before we use the reaction diffusion simulations to do all this kind of masking stuff. So yeah, let's just get started with a box, for example, and then I'm gonna use BMS viewer. So this is procedural box and being generated on the fly using Sverchok, and then we can increase the resolution very easily and then increase the size. So that's kind of really cool because now if you are doing like a pen weighting, for example, if you are kind of like painting it manually, sometimes this actually can be pretty slow if you have like really high resolutions. But if you are doing it procedurally, maybe using image, it's going to be a lot faster. So you have this masking. Red color is like a 100% weighting, and blue means 0. If I go up to the object mode, and if I use the mask modifier in Blender, this will simply use the weighting to get rid of the face. There's also armature mode. I haven't tried this, but I think this is something nice as well to try on. Vertex group for now. And we know that we can also add the Laplacian smoothing and increase the border, and you can get like a smooth edge like this. So this is going to be what we are doing, but instead of doing it manually, we're gonna use Sverchok. So let's go a little bit higher. Now that thing disappeared because the mass actually changed, and then we don't have the weighting anymore. So be careful with that. The weighting is now different from before. Okay, so let's save this real quick. This is SV weighting revisited. The SV weight masking. Okay, so we have quite dense of mesh, and we can now use the vertex weighting, vertex group weight. So with vertex group weight, we are only dealing with a floating values between 0 and 1. So should be pretty simple. We don't need to worry about RGB color. We can simply pass in the objects, and you can see the weighting is already being generated. For the weighting, let's say if we can use like a random number as a start. Let's plug this guy in. Let's switch to weight pane mode, and we can see the value being generated. We can make it between 0 and 1. We get this the usual pattern, so like on and off pattern. Save this. If we go back to object mode and use the masking, we can use the weighting from Sverchok. So yeah, this is gonna work on the fly. So that's the idea basically. The weighting is actually working per vertices base, not like per face, so keep that in mind. You can, of course, change the behavior, but for now we're gonna stay with this, and you can experiment with the vector noise or vector turbulence as usual. Let's say we use the vertices, for example, and then with a scalar value, we just plug that into the weight. And currently doesn't seem to work. Wonder what's going on. Let's go back to the weight pane. Okay, we can see the weighting is actually happening, but the masking actually only consider the one that's kind of beyond value of 1. So we probably can use a math and maybe increase the value or something. Yeah, something like that. go back to object mode and have a look. Still doesn't quite work. Maybe I need to plug something into the Vertex index there, but I'm not quite sure. Maybe if I use like a floor or round, and maybe okay, round actually works. So math MK2 and just use a round. I think this will round the value between just 0 and 1. So you can see 0 and 1. So that's kind of good, and it's working for us. Yeah, so that's actually pretty much it. Let me check. So wake paint mode. Go back to object mode. And you can actually use the vector math as usual over here, and then use a scalar, multiply by scalar, and then control the size of the noise. It's already happening, so it's working. Let's use matcap and Laplacian smoothing. Increase the border. You can see that's kind of the design that we want. Solidify. It's always nice to add some thickness. So there you go. That's working for us very nicely. And if you want to increase the resolutions, you can do that. 30 by 30 by 30. You have how many now? It's quite a lot of polygon face, but still working pretty fast for us. And you can also use like a vector move, for example. Plug in like frame into the X, Y, or Z, and use a multiplier here. So something like that. Oh, actually, if you're using frame, it tends to get a little bit slower on the preview here. But it's actually pretty fast if you don't use the frame number. It's actually pretty interactive. Because I'm recording, I'm just gonna switch back to lower resolution. So there you go. It's a lot of control you have, and then on top of this, you can also change the noise and whatnot. Of course, Blender comes with all this some preset noise, but remember that you can always create your own like pattern and noise. And then what I'm thinking to do is to use the reaction diffusion from this app called Ready, and kind of to work it out with Blender. So that's kind of like a teaser. So this is the masking. Again, just working with the weighting and Sverchok to do the masking. And also we are using Blender's own mask modifier, so everything's pretty cool and pretty streamlined. What I'm thinking to do though is like let's say I start with a box. Let's do it real quick. Spectral Box viewer vmesh. Plug this guy in. Make it 10 by 10 by 10. So we have 1000 resolution. That's actually a little bit too small still. Increase it higher. So we have this. I'm gonna export it out as OBJ, and gonna save this real quick on the desktop. Sverchok box, export obj, and then I go to this app right here. Okay, this app is really cool. You can do a lot of really fancy, like a quick reaction diffusions kind of stuff, like this bunny rabbit. Let's try importing our own mesh from Blender. So SV box, open it, run a pattern on the surface of this mesh. Okay, yep. Now if we run it, see, we get this pattern. And all we need to do is really just to save. If you want the animations, you can save the weighting for every frame, for every process simulations. And this thing is live in this app. Let me show you again. Ready app by Tim Hutton and everyone else. This thing, the weighting you see here between two chemicals is something that you can export and bring back into Blender, and then you can run. You can actually get a nice result. Let me see. I think this is a setup that I did last night. Let's see if it's... Oh, actually, this is another example with the box. It's slightly more complicated. I'm simply in here, I'm using the box, and with the box, I make a replica of the box multiple times, actually 25 times between size 2 and 10. And I'm running the masking weighting multiple times. So this is actually a slightly more advanced version of the previous setup. But the idea is the same, just use noise. So this is almost like volumetric. This is actually something that you might be able to print out, even though they are all floating. If we are using ready, this kind of thing, you can actually work volumetrically, and that's actually my something that I will try to do. I haven't played around with all this parameter. There's a lot of coolness here. But anyhow, this is actually kind of like the basics idea, I think. We just need to transfer the weighting. Of course, ideally, you want to be able to do these reaction diffusions inside Blender. But since this app already kind of doing it really nicely and everything is real time, you can visualize it. And also, this program is open source, so maybe we can kind of take advantage of all the setup here before trying to recreate it inside Blender using Sverchok or other add-on. So yeah, keep eyes on this add-on also. This is UMOG. This app, this node actually can do the sculpting and displacement on the fly using texture. So it's almost like reaction diffusions for Blender. But this is, I think, still work in progress. This app called UMOG. This is also a teaser. I have not tested this app, but this is definitely very interesting. Mesh manipulation tools, UMOG. There is no website, but you can find it online. So yeah, that's pretty much it for this live coding. Just masking and Sverchok noise to generate the weighting, and once you have the weighting, you can simply mask and the objects. And with the weighting itself, you can always use something like ready. You need to if you want to export this weight, you need to save it out. I think save the pattern as this format, VTU, which is the extended VTK files. And then you need to another software that can convert it into Blender, but I'll probably show that to you in the next video. This format is used a lot at in visualization and I think in medical or whatever simulations. they use VTU format, and then there is an add-on for Blender that deals with VTU and VTK, but I'm gonna use another software just to make it simple. You will see in the next live noding video. Anyway, thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you in the next video. Thank you. Bye.